Hitman.
What's going on?
Do you want to get right into the Hitman?
I'm just gonna put it out there. Hitman. Hitman 3 came out last week, smack dab in the middle of our Game of the Year stuff. So,
right,
we are just coming to it fresh this week for the first time. Danny, it sounded like you finished it, right?
Yeah, I got code the day before it went up, and for some reason I decided I was worried about spoilers or something. I don't know. Imagine caring about the story in a Hitman game. It's just
don't say.
But that's the thing. But that's the thing. Like they made it happen.
That's my material for this segment. Is that I was going to roll in here and say I've done the thing you're not supposed to do and got super invested in the Hitman story, like maybe more than the action and the actual game part. But
have you? Because I've completed it now. I rushed through it.
I'm only on the second mission of 3 right now because I'm trying to stretch it out a little bit. Because like, I mean, most people know what Hitman is at this point. But like, when you sit down with that thing, especially now that it's not episodic anymore, then all 6 levels are just in there. You can finish that game in one sitting if you put your mind to it. Like, you can tear through those levels. Like, if you're especially, I mean, you could do the mission stories, which are the ones that have like the objectives and they just straight up lead you by the nose for like, go touch this computer panel and then go drop a chandelier on this guy and then press this button and you're done. It's like they just sort of lead you through it. Or you can like do what I usually do and just like sneak around and put bullets in people's heads when I see the opportunity. But either way, like if you don't explore like the full kind of roundness of each one of those maps, you're talking like 45 minutes per or something, tops, times 6, and then you're done.
I feel like the missions in this game, and so I haven't played deep into it, but it sounds like they changed a lot of things about mission structure in some of these later levels. So
that's what I'm
kind of whodunit mystery or some of this other stuff that I see people talking about and go like, oh, that's fucking super exciting.
Yeah,
that they have like changed that up and gotten away from some of that stuff. But I did the thing I did with Hitman 2, which is I install all of it and then go like, let's go to Sapienza.
That's exactly what I did.
Yeah, so I only played the first level of Hitman 3, and I was like, this is great. There's so much more going on here. This is like a great looking level, and I completed it and did a couple mission stories along the way, and choked out a journalist in a bathroom, and all this good shit. And then I was like, yeah, but there's all this other Hitman in here. Just like kept going back to old Hitman levels.
That is the other reason that I'm only on mission 2 of the new one as well, is that I also couldn't resist playing like 3 of those other levels.
Yeah.
Like,
have they changed much? Like, what's the?
It's basically the same stuff. I mean, it gets the engine upgrades, like whatever new reflections and stuff they've added and stuff like that. But I think it's basically the same content. But
yeah,
it's not the first time they've done it because they did it in 2, and even in 2, it was like, holy shit, like. There's an entire other Hitman game's worth of content in this shell now, in addition to Hitman 2. But now that it's all 3 of them end to end, me and my girlfriend sat there last night and buttoned through every single cutscene and mission briefing start to finish from the beginning of Hitman 1 through the end of Hitman 2 DLC. And it was like watching a little Hitman movie, basically. And
it's like the first cutscene in Hitman 3 is a story so far. Let's cast you up on it.
I know, but it's not the same. It's not the same as watching.
They leave out some of the details.
Because going through, it's more like watching the way they build that stuff. Because like, that's it. That this is why I like the Hitman story. It is so cheesy and over the top, like juicy spy clandestine bullshit. Like it's so good at appearing to take itself incredibly seriously, but like just under the surface, like it knows how dumb and ridiculous everything is. Mm-hmm. Like they spend the entirety of that first game not telling you who the shadow client is, Lucas Pope, the guy that you are rolling around with from then on, right? Like you spend that entire game not knowing who he is. And like right around the time you find out who he is, you also find out there's an Illuminati that runs the entire world and that they have infiltrated your organization and everybody's playing everybody else against each other. And it's just such ridiculous, like layered nonsense that like that's why going through all those cutscenes is so much fun. It's just like, man, this is really dumb and really hilarious in a really fun way. But
I think the way that the levels themselves have sort of expanded upon that thing, because each of those levels still felt like a very like sandbox, like you could have almost put them in any order in the game. It wouldn't have made much of a difference. They're all very like sort of freeing. Whereas in this one, like Jeff was alluding to with the mansion thing, right? And there's a couple of other levels like the one in Berlin where they really like change the entire sort of setup of what's going on. And I think like it shows the confidence that they probably have now, right? Where at the start they were, coming into Hitman 2016, like there was a lot of question marks, right? With what happened with Absolution, people, you know, wanting a return to stuff like Blood Money and 2, and you can definitely feel like they've sort of I don't know, had a bit more creative license with the ways in which they're setting up the levels, which is pretty cool considering the game only has like, well, you said 6, and like the final level's sort of a weird one. So it's, you know, the 5 large sandboxes kind of. And the other thing, I don't know how far you guys are, and I'm cognizant of like trying not to spoil stuff for anyone who hasn't gotten that far in it. But the Mansion and another one, that Berlin one, they play around with like non-combat and feeding the story through like moving through the environment and investigating. And also the Berlin one is a little bit of like clandestine, like who are the agents in the sort of the map, that it made me wonder if this sort of stuff was almost like what they were pitching to get the Bond license.
Sure.
Right.
That was
and if not explicitly that, them just like putting the training wheels on for all that stuff.
Like that was my first reaction to Dubai. The first map in this game was like 10 minutes into that thing, I was like, damn, this studio is making a James Bond game. Because like, in contrast to like, you know, most Hitman maps, you just sort of waltz in the front door and it's very like chill and kind of, you know, nondescript. The first 10 minutes of Dubai, you parachute on top of a skyscraper. You like pull a camera, like a gadget, like a high-tech camera out and scan a lock to electronically unlock it. You're like crawling through air ducts. You're like hacking terminals and like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a bunch of high-tech spy shit in that map that is not.
And there's even some little production stuff along the way in that level. If you're playing like kind of along the mission stories, like when, you know, if you meet the assistant of one of the guy who doesn't ever kind of come out of his place, the guy that's, if you are doing the speed run version, the guy that's on the balcony that you shoot at 4 seconds in or whatever the fuck it is. Like when you go up to meet him and get to that, there's that room that just has like all the water, like the kind of infinity pool style stuff. Like the camera kind of pulls back a little bit, kind of gracefully as you're walking through, and you're like, okay, like they're like, this is the third game and they know very much how to make what they've made. And this is like, in some ways you see them changing it up. And I feel like it's two things. It's like, there's that training wheels Bond aspect of just like, okay, we're going to try to lean into some of this stuff that we're about to get into really deeply, but also a certain element of like, hey, you know, we know how to make these games. We need to change it up and do something a little more extravagant, but also this is still the Hitman engine. This is still, you know, this game still is what it is. And it doesn't seem extravagant. It seems like a team that knows its engine pretty well and is like able to get a little bit more out of it now that they're really cozy with it or something. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but that's the vibe I get in some of the things they added there.
You can see it in the progression through those levels too. There's one level that takes place in a sort of a vineyard type location, and it's such an unbelievable execution of the narrative, not just playing out in those, you know, those beats before each level, but actually playing out in the level while you're in it, and you can sort of like decide to follow the story. They do a little bit of that in the mansion stuff, but the execution of it in the vineyard is like, it's so clever. Like it's one of these moments where you're like, oh, this feels like a different type of Hitman. Like if they had rebooted Hitman 2016, this is what I would have expected. Like this is the next level of what they're doing. It kind of makes me sad. It's like, man, I kind of want another one. Like, just keep making these things.
And they're very much like, this is the conclusion of the World of Assassination trilogy. Like it just says it literally in game when you launch it.
I have never gotten tired of the phrase "World of Assassination."
It's so good. It's so fucking good.
But yeah, like that is yet another reason I'm trying to like make this one last more than a day or two, is that they really are not beating around the bush at all. It's like, this is it for the foreseeable future for Hitman. Like if you look at the rundown for the deluxe edition, like all the goodies you get with that, like there is no DLC listed for this game. There's
really?
Because, you know, that was like a big part of the last two games was like, first game had a bunch of dressed up versions of the original maps as DLC, and the second game straight up had new maps as DLC, and this has none of
the bank. And
the bank and the Haven Island, the kind of tropical resort for rich tech assholes, which is a fantastic map. But there's none of that for this. It's just like, this is it. This is you're done. So
yeah, it's I'm of two minds about it. Like, I guess, you know, as someone who has not finished it yet, like I'm excited because I've got a lot more Hitman left to play. But also, like when I went back to it and spent a much time playing old levels and played the new level and stuff, I was like, this is really great. I'm really looking forward to this. Also, this seems like the right time for them to step away from it. I think if they got on even more of a treadmill and we're just like, here's Hitman 4. I don't know. Like at some point they're either tethered to this thing they've now built of like, you got to bring in all the old levels, and that's going to hamstring them going forward someday, in like a very Skylanders-y kind of way. Or, you know, they're going to make some dramatic break and fuck it all up or something like that. So I think like now's the right time, I think, after these 3 games to step away for a while, do this Bond thing. And I feel like at least like somewhat confident that hopefully you'll get some amount of what you like about Hitman out of that Bond game. Just looking at what that first level is and the structure of that and what you can do. Like I hope it is not entirely unlike Hitman, but by the very nature of like what James Bond does and all that other stuff, I think that gives them a lot more room to play around than you have with Agent 47. So yeah, it's cool.
Must be nice for them as well to have that security, because they were in such trouble almost the whole time, like trying to get people to buy that Hitman game, you know.
Right.
And Hitman 2 also, you know, and the big back and forth over, like, I'm with you, Brad. Like I prefer the episodic format. It definitely forced everyone to play that game the way it kind of should have been played, but it turned off so many people and then totally confused people for Hitman 2 because people didn't know, oh, is this weird episodic thing?
Right.
So I hope more than anything that 3 sells, and then I'm sure the IP money will be good from the Bond stuff. I'm sure they're getting paid well for that.
It's a good time, you know, it being this close to a console launch. I think you've got people that are looking for something to do on new consoles, so it's good that they're there with that stuff. I specifically got the PS5 version because I wanted to see what it was like to break a neck with those triggers, and it doesn't seem like it does anything. And so that was kind of disappointing.
Well,
I want more.
Break necks with Square, right?
Yeah, well, but I mean, you know, choking people out or, you know, whatever you're doing. I want more controller action.
On Manhunt
in that game. Yes, yeah, I want the controller speaker. I want fucking that guy talking to me out of the controller speaker, telling me to kill. And so I wanted a little bit more of that. Also, like the legacy, like the shadow that Hitman 2 casts over Hitman 3 in a way is sort of a bummer. Like the whatever relationship they had with Warner, I'm guessing is what has really fucked up the PC process of those levels coming in.
Have they sorted that?
Oh, yeah.
I know they said they're working on sorting that out, but have they yet? I don't.
No, they have not.
So.
Unless it happened early this morning, which I don't think it did. But like, so that leads to a couple of crazy situations. One, if you want to buy the Hitman 2 levels for Hitman 3, which and you're on console, I think the PC situation is slightly different right now because of how much messier it is. Like if you want all of that content, all the Hitman 2 content, it is still $100. Or like Hitman 2 Gold in Hitman 3, just the access pass for that. Like they want $100 for that thing. There's no like, hey, this game's been out for a couple of years and now it's DLC for Hitman 3. Like it's not priced accordingly. And it kind of should be, but at the same time, I have to imagine at some point Warner is like, no, we need to get ours on that.
Especially given that you are no longer working with us.
Right.
We no longer have an ongoing relationship.
And I'm just like speculating, but like that seems like the thing that probably messed up the PC process. So like step one of that is that game is only on Epic on PC. So they had to go build this ridiculous website to let you import progress and all this other stuff, even though they already had accounts. And, you know, there's a weird, that stuff is not great on any platform. But the other part of that is like, it's supposed to detect if you own Hitman 1 or 2 and bring those levels in auto-magically for free if you do. And that's what they had been saying for a while. And then suddenly, right before release, there was so we're going to charge for that stuff for Hitman 2. If you got Hitman 1 when it was free on the Epic Game Store, because it was free for a very long time, then you'll have that. But Hitman 2 was never for sale on the Epic Game Store. So we're going to sell it for 80% off on the store here, which is like, that's a reasonable price for all that Hitman 2 content and all that other stuff. But they had been advertising it as, hey, you'll get it for free. And I can only imagine that they must have like been working on Warner to get this stuff to happen. And at some point, Warner was like, "Dude, no, like what? No, we're not going to give you like, that's new licenses you're giving out for this content that we own a piece of on a totally separate store."
Do you think that's all Warner, or do you think Valve had something to say about that? Of like, no, we're not going to license purchases you made on our store to our competitor's store.
So they could. I think there are ways for Epic to do that without Valve's say so one way or the other, right? I think there's ways for them to figure out like, hey, yes, you do in fact own that, because the game does have like they made an IO interactive account system for Hitman 2. That stuff all exists. Like they have ways of saying like, okay, we can tell you own this.
Doesn't Epic already pull like friend data from Steam?
Yes, you can link. You can link it up if you want. Yeah.
So I wondered what was the reason why they couldn't have used that. Could people like share games and then it would like trick the system into thinking they owned it or something? I just
potentially. I don't know.
The website seemed like maybe it was superfluous, but obviously it wasn't because they wouldn't have made it.
Right. And so I my only guess, like, so the reversal on that has been, hey, like I think it was like the day before launch, they came out and said, actually, we are going to find a way to, and there might have been a Tim Sweeney tweet about this. So my guess, and it is just a guess, is that this was a thing that was starting to make Epic look bad, even though it's kind of not on them, but they did get the exclusive to the thing, and that does make it slightly more complicated. My guess is that Epic said, all right, we are going to show up with money and solve this Warner problem for you because it's in our best interest to make this look good. But it's going to take, but it must have taken time for that to happen because it has not happened yet. You can go buy that Hitman 2 content if you want. That access pass exists on the store. It's still 80% off for some chunk of time. But they've said like at some point in the future, we're going to figure that out. And that's a clunky process that does kind of, like I said, it kind of casts a weird shadow over some of this stuff because they did advertise that stuff right up to the very end and then be like, no, wait, yes, but not now.
In the meantime, don't play that copy of Hitman 3 you just bought, because once you can bring your stuff over from Steam, it will overwrite all the progress you made.
So they've done all that. Like that is separate. The whether you own the levels or not is a separate process from your progress coming in.
Oh,
so you can do the account linking stuff.
Okay.
And bring all that into Hitman 3 regardless.
Oh,
like you could say, here's my Steam account, here's my Epic account, go. It just doesn't do the levels. It's just
because they store all your progress, your mastery levels, and all that stuff on their servers in their account system. Right.
Exactly. So that part's done, but that was broken the morning of launch across, because it's a website, it's all platforms, and the thing they said is like, hey, maybe don't play Hitman 3 until you do this because it will overwrite your Hitman 3 progress when you do this.
Another reason I got a late start on that game because that stuff was so
janky. I'm restarting that game.
I was like terrified. Yeah. And they really drive home like, hey, this is a one-time transfer. Once you do this, you cannot do this again. And I was like terrified it would break halfway through but still flag itself as having been done, and I would just be locked out of it or something. So I was like staying well away from that website until it seemed very stable.
Yeah, so it was stable like a few hours later. Yeah. But yeah, it was that thing of like, oh, I've got time to play. Like we were getting ready to record that day's Game of the Year podcast, and I was like, oh fuck yeah, I'm gonna play some Hitman before that starts. And then that pops up, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess I'll just do this real quick. Oh, this is completely broken. Oh, I guess I gotta not play Hitman. I guess I have to specifically not play this game now because it's just gonna throw all that progress out when it finally does come up and work. And so yeah, it's a bumpy launch. A bumpy launch for a game that so far seems pretty great.
Yeah, I even last night and this morning playing it a little bit, I was getting knocked off their servers mid mission and mid cutscene.
Yeah,
a few times.
I've had that a lot. I've like pretty consistently for the past week. I've been
great.
Yeah, it's weird. I never had that with the older games either. We did literally like mid mission. It comes up like retry, restart.
And I want to say if you can't reconnect, I think it'll boot you out of that mission. I think it straight up does not let you finish. It auto saves constantly, so once the servers are back up, you should be able to hop back in pretty easily. But
is this across the board? Like this is PC and console versions? That's
booting you out of? That's their server that it's trying to get a hold of, and that's happened on PS5. But yeah, I wonder if that speaks to it being popular, or if they have reduced capacity on the server.
Could be both
or something. But yeah, I don't know. That's
what's the situation with if you own it digitally, like Hitman 2 on console? Then if you have 3, it just
shows up.
Gives you levels.
Yes. So I had to go in and buy a bunch of free DLC at that point because it's basically especially the way PlayStation stuff works. I bet on Xbox this would be cleaner, but I don't own any of the old stuff on Xbox, just the base game. But on PlayStation, you basically have to go in and it'll list like Hitman 2 Gold free, and so you have to just go hit it and add it and make sure it all downloads and stuff. But you do have to go in, and I had to go in and buy for or 5 different free DLC things in the PlayStation Store just to get that stuff to come in.
You are right. On Xbox, it is completely seamless. It is like one button, get the game, and then it just starts downloading everything that is licensed to your account all the way back to the first game.
They seem smarter about how they've handled a lot of that, like DLC licenses tied to games and all the other stuff.
Also,
the PSN has been.
Like I was afraid to download this thing on the Series X because that drive is so small, and Hitman 2 was fucking huge. Like Hitman 2 with all the Hitman 1 levels in it was like, I don't know, 120 gig or something. It was like gigantic.
Oh.
And then I downloaded audio. Maybe I don't know, but maybe that is it. Maybe there's like smart delivery stuff. They took audio tracks out or something like that. Because I downloaded Hitman 3 with all the 1 and 2 content. It is only like 60 gig or something. It's like a massive reduction.
They made a big deal not that long ago. I think it was like last week or the week before, saying like, "Hey, we have shrunk the size of this game like by a lot."
Yeah, it's impressive.
And went into some of the detail about how they made that happen. It's fascinating.
That's cool.
Like that's smart of them also, because that's. Yeah, so I got Microsoft sent over one of the terabyte plug-in drive things, and so I hooked that up, and then had to do a ton of drive management of like, okay, I need to move this here. Again, like I forget I'll erase all the audio routing stuff on the whiteboard and start drawing out like, okay, Xbox One games that I'm gonna never uninstall go here, and the ones temporary, like just ridiculous. But that thing does work pretty well, and yeah, Hitman fits right on that drive. When I had installed on the PS5, though, that drive was already pretty much full, so I had to uninstall like 2 or 3 games, like smaller games, just to make room on there. That drive is at capacity.
Is there any new console optimization stuff in there? Like, does it run better on 5 and Series X?
Yeah, it's of course I looked at all the Digital Foundry stuff. It's 1800p on the PS5 and a native 4K on the Series X, and they both run at a steady 60 frames per second, except for one field and one level apparently that drops into the low 50s. So there you go.
Must be a particularly beautiful field.
Yes, it's a good looking game. Runs real nice.
But you had to put all of the stuff on the new drive, right? For the PlayStation 5, you couldn't have any. Like you can't put the Hitman 2 levels on the external thing or anything.
Nope, no, because it's all part of one thing. Yeah, any PS5 anything needs to run off that main drive. So, but it's not that big. Like I could fire it up and check, but I have all 3 games worth of content downloaded, and I want to say it was 60.
Oh wow,
yeah.
It was a fairly reasonable number given the size of like Call of Duty and some of that other stuff.
It's like 120, right? For just I think just for Warzone, it's 120 gig or something. Crazy.
Yeah, it is some ridiculous number for that. But Warzone, thankfully, currently it won't always be this way, I assume. But that is currently an old game, as a PS4 game and an Xbox One X, so you can install that on an external drive, provided external drives aren't making your PlayStation 5 catch on fire or whatever they're doing.
I'm sitting here debating whether to bring that stuff up or not, but I guess here we are. Like my PS5's rest mode is now dead. Like I can't go into rest mode. It's fucked.
What do you mean dead? Like it doesn't, like it never works ever, no matter what. Like you hit rest mode, the system is just gone.
I go to rest mode. It starts pulsing orange as it is going through the suspend process. Halfway through the pulsing orange, it just blinks out. And
it turns off.
After that, well, it's not even off because it can't be turned back on with the controller after that. I have to go up and press the power button twice on the console to get it to come back on after that.
Goodness.
And
does it give you the don't turn me off thing?
It does not do the, hey, what the fuck, you shut me down improperly system check stuff. It just comes right back on. So it's not that crash like Jeff and a bunch of other people have been having. It's a different crash, which a bunch of people are having this one too. Like I had spent too much time this weekend trying to troubleshoot this thing, and like there's a bunch of people out there with this specific rest mode crash as opposed to that other rest mode crash.
And I have not had any rest mode problems for a while now. Like I've got my external drive plugged in and full of PS4 games and all this other stuff, and I have not had any serious issues. It seems like maybe some of the problems were on Miles Morales.
Maybe.
And I haven't played that game. I finished it and haven't touched it in a long time, and they've patched it a bunch since then. So I don't know if it is completely solved. But I did see Adam Worth was on Twitter saying that he was having rest mode problems and he had been playing Miles Morales. So I wonder if that would be the issue. But
I was thinking about looking into an RMA, but there are people, you don't have to go far on Twitter to find people saying like, yeah, I RMA'd mine because of rest mode issues, and the one I got back had the exact same problem. And it's like,
I mean, that's the thing, like after talking about that issue, like in the, like not long after release or something like that, or right around release, like the day before, like Sony reached out and they were like, hey, that sounds like something we don't know about. Can we have your PS5 back? We'll send you another one. So they kind of backdoor RMA'd me, and I plugged that new one in and had the same problem in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So it's but again, like, you know, a couple, now that we're on the other side of like 3 firmware patches and however many game patches for some of the various games, like that thing's been pretty solid for me.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, mine's been flawless since 3 weeks before launch, right up until this weekend, and then it just shit the bed. And I've never plugged an external drive into it. Like, I've been treating that thing with kid gloves because of all the the FUD floating around about that thing breaking. Like, I never suspend games. I don't plug an external into it. Like, nothing. And still, it has crapped out. I found a post on the PS5 subreddit of a bunch of people have constructed like this fucking diagnostic matrix of like, okay, I tested it with HDMI CEC turned off, but USB ports set to 3 hours, and this and this and this, and that killed it. But then turning this off and this on, I was able to get rest mode to work part of the time. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's all over the place, and it's a real fucking bummer.
That's wild. I've had no problems with mine. Thankfully, the only thing I've had an external drive in it, I think, since day one. It started making weird noises though, like almost like a fan whirring, but like something at the back that's doing something, and it's just oscillating strange. And I just do the whole like move it slightly, and then it's fine again.
Okay, so I was gonna say it's not like a weird high pitched beep, is it? Because I've heard a weird high pitched beep in this room at night sometimes, and I don't know what it is, and I've been like walking around quietly to not wake anyone up, like going like, where the fuck is the noise coming from? And
it's not dissimilar to like a beep, like it's a constant sound. It doesn't sound like a
But does it start and stop, or is it just when it starts it goes?
It's when it starts, and I think I just stop noticing it because I've got the speakers up high.
Does it have like a
sometimes it's not
sort of an electrical quality to it?
Yeah,
that could be coil wine. I wouldn't be surprised if it's
that was my house gonna burn down. What's going on?
Electrical phenomenon with some electronics. I'm not super versed in the cause exactly, but I bet that's what that is.
It doesn't do it all the time though, so it's one of these things where I'm like, I got enough things to be worrying about.
I heard the noise last night, so if that starts happening again, I'm gonna
record it,
ram my head into this entertainment center and see if it's coming out of that PlayStation.
There you go.
Man, this stuff is such a bummer. I mean, launching consoles in the middle of this mess, I'm sure it has to have been pretty goddamn hard, but it's still real shitty.
It's frustrating,
to be dealing with this stuff. But
Yep.
It feels like it always comes to the territory though, that with launch stuff, right? There's always, well, not always, but you're always a little bit worried when you're that early adopter.
Like this is always the reason I have not been an early adopter of consoles unless I have to for work. Like the PlayStation 1 scarred me for life. Like I went through 4 PlayStation 1s.
What happened with the PS1?
Oh my god, dude, that thing was a disaster. I mean, I had one of the launch models that you had to turn upside down because it was overheating.
Yeah.
Well, it's a good thing those discs really get stuck in there.
Jason knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah, well, I turned mine upside down because I don't know if it was a heat issue so much as the spring on the laser would weaken and it would just stop reading.
Maybe that's
discs
what it was
because of that. So like if you gravity solves the problem when you turn the PlayStation on its side or turn it over.
Maybe
or
that's what it
whatever.
was. I think people theorized all kinds of reasons to kind of walk back why turning it upside down would fix the problem.
I didn't have to turn mine upside down for years.
Really?
Like mine worked fine for a long time, and I think I got to a point with it where it was like, maybe I have used the swap trick on this one too many times, and I have perhaps done some damage myself. I don't know. And so I always took it for like, that's what I get for what I did with that PlayStation. And then not long after that, we bought a bunch of modded PlayStations because we only had one debug in the office and NCS was selling them or whoever. And we were just like,
did you buy them by weight?
Yeah,
did you see that 1,000 pounds of PlayStation lot going around?
Yeah, or I saw the one that was all like cables and shit from the Goodwill.
Oh, I saw one that was literally
just all PlayStation.
It was like fuck. It was everything. It was launch model PS2s and
crazy
second model PS3s and PS4s in there. It was just a giant box of PlayStation.
What was it going for?
I'm not sure. Several hundred, I want to say. It's just like this Scrooge McDuck style PlayStation bin. You just go swimming in that thing.
Swim in it, yeah.
Would they ship it, or I mean, you probably have to like get it like crate it up and pay freight.
Oh, I have
probably not worth it at that point.
I have to find that 1,000 pounds of PlayStations.
It would be fun to just have 1,000 pounds of PlayStation.
Right.
Yeah,
it's a lot of PlayStation. I guess we should move on from Hitman. I have one more thing that happened in Hitman that I just wanted to throw out there. Like I'm excited to get to Sounds like Berlin is like probably the jumping off point for the kind of new structural stuff. But
I think Dartmoor Manor is before that one. I think.
yeah, but
Yeah, I think Dartmoor's
did they do some of that there too? Well, so I
Oh my god, that is such a good level.
I got
That's-
deep enough. I got deep enough into Dartmoor to see the private eye talking to the lady, and like got a hint of. So maybe that's what you're referring to.
You can be the private eye, Brad.
Oh man!
And it changes the whole thing into a murder mystery.
Wow. Okay.
It's like you guys call it Clue. We call it Cluedo. It's Clue.
Yeah,
here,
I'm
isn't it?
sorry. What?
Is it Cluedo or Cluedo? I was just wondering that like the other day. Cluedo Sonoda, inventor of the Kinect. Okay.
There it is.
Did it with the candlestick in the
It's Cluedo, but it's like or have you seen what's the movie? Is it Knives Out?
Yes.
Speaking of James Bond, the Daniel Craig.
Just say the movie was called Clue. But okay. Yeah.
So it's if you can get him before he goes in, you basically take on his persona, and the way Agent 47 is just like he's good at whatever job he is dressed up as.
Master of disguise.
You could just go do the whole thing. Like it's unbelievable. It's you end up like doing this entire murder mystery, which is basically completely unrelated to why you're there. Like you don't need to do it.
Huh.
And it's like a it's one of these you can do it in any way you want to type of way, but it's a very prescribed type of mission, but it's so clever.
Wow.
It's
really I'm excited to get into that.
But sorry, what was you were saying?
That is one of the things I love that is so ridiculous about that game is that like when I blended in as a bartender in the Dubai level, and he doesn't just pour a drink, they bothered to animate him flipping bottles all over the fucking place as he pours the drink, because of course 47 is the best at bartending as well. I just love how it's like a very mild spoiler for that first level, but like you come out of the last game looking for the partners who are the heads of the Illuminati basically, and like who they are, and this game is audacious enough that the very first level, your targets are two of the three partners. Like I thought that was like that. Okay, they're going to save,
picking up where you left off, man. It's like, all right, what's next? Let's go kill these fuckers.
Right,
all right, great.
Right. I was like, all right, you're going to spend the whole of 3. You're going to be chasing the partners, and then all 3 of them will be the targets at the end. Right. That's how they're going to play this. Right.
Or like one at a time,
right,
and
they'll
like spread it out on every 2 levels
on levels 4, 5, and 6 or whatever. But it's just like here's 2 of the 3 are your targets on the first level, and there was a security room that I obsessively cleared all the guards out of. Like one of the 2 partners has a loop. Part of his loop is that he checks in the security checkpoint, like complaining about not having enough guards or something like that. And I cleared that room of security guards by like fucking with an electrical panel that turned lights off. So they just kept one by one walking in, and I kept one by one knocking them out and shoving them in a dumpster. But I walked off and left that security room in the dark because I didn't turn the lights back on after all the guards were gone. And like 20 minutes later, I get a notification like one of your targets is like checking on a disturbance or something like that. And so his route had taken him back into that dark security room, and it notified me he was going to check on the lights. So I just roll up in there, and here is one of the 3 most powerful people on the planet trying to do electrical maintenance on this panel, because like at the end of the day, he is a slave to the same AI routines that every single other character in that game is like bound to. So I just rolled right up in there and put a bullet in the back of his head while he was trying to turn the lights back on. When like in character, this guy would like never deign to flip a light switch, right? Like he needs like 3 servants to turn a light on for him or whatever. But I just love that like the game mechanically cannot help pulling like people out of the story and forcing them into its like Rube Goldberg machinery or whatever.
If I don't care who you are, if you walk into a room and the lights are out, you're going to go, who turned out the lights?
So, yeah,
and have to solve the problem.
Yes, it was the death of him, it turns out.
Yeah. I dressed up as a guard the first time through that level. I just dressed up as the guard, and then there's a whole part where you can like get papers and be like, I'm the new guy. And then he's like, you're the new guy. Huh? All right, cool. Let's go test. And then you just like, it's just then he walks you down a hallway and you're like, oh, that's a dumpster right there. Oh, fuck this guy. And just throw him in there. Like, okay, cool. There was more to that story, but whatever. I've got things to do. And that too was really satisfying, because when you find that guard it's his first day, he's like down in like a locker room, and he's just going like, oh man, you're the same build. And I was already wearing a security guard outfit. Like, you're the same build as me, man. Hey, can I borrow your clothes? I can't find mine, and it's my first day. And then you're just going like, I cannot. No, I will not lend you my clothes. And I was just like, okay, I'm just going to murder everyone in this room and get the papers and go handle my business. And yeah, it's still Hitman, man.
Yeah.
They're still making that game.
That's always been one of the most hysterical things about that series to me is that whenever you take on a named identity like somebody who is known to the people in that level, he doesn't even try to look or sound like that person. He completely deadpans it through every single disguise that he puts on, and everybody just buys it.
47's voice actor is like it is so perfect,
incredible
for all of the dumb shit of just like all the authoritative things he has to say and be like, yes, I'm your new guard. Like it's just the right level of like, oh, I can't wait to choke this guy. It's just it is perfect. It is so pitch perfect for selling like both the seriousness and the comedy of that game. Weirdly enough, like it's wow, just so good.
Did you do the mission story in that first level where they've hired an assassin?
What?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a guy. There's like an assassin who's there, who's like looks nothing like 47, but he has like the weirdest pair of glasses. Did you see? He has like glasses where like one of them's a sunglass and one of them's not. And I guess like that's the peacocking part that like gets him through within, in the internal logic. But yeah, you literally like he's like one of the best assassins in the world, and like you like take him out like anyone else in that game, like really easily, and then you just go up and they ask you to do a bunch of hit jobs, and you're there to kill the guy who's giving you the job. I feel like that first level they layer in that stuff. Yeah, so thick, like all the Hitman sauce is just like it's all there in that first level.
And that moment there, like so that's a good moment of like when you first see that guy, he is talking to the guy's assistant, and they're like, "You can't come up. You got to be frisked. You cannot come up." And he's like, "Well, I'm gonna go smoke a cigarette then, gov." And he like stomps off to go be an asshole, and you choke him, dress up as him, and go right back up to the same three people wearing his clothes. Like, oh, you came back, huh? And he's like, well, I decided it was, curiosity killed the cat. Whatever dumb line of dialogue he's got. It's just so fucking good.
Like it's like the rules of that world are complete nonsense, but it adheres to those rules like unflinchingly the whole time.
That's why it works.
Yeah,
that's why it works.
Totally, it's
a learnable and knowable thing
and exploitable.
Yeah,
like that's what's so great about it.